Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidgoldd, as now all know, and I welcome to Kobe Radio and Television Station. Still on this same election matter and this our Nigeria matter where they happen both court and go. But right now, they don't interview Mr. Femi Adesina, the special advisor to the presidency on media and publicity. In don't talk in mind. They don't answer some simple questions. Say, I they see Nigerian government under Buhari. Make it come talk wetin the government don't do under this Buhari regime. Wetin don't see, and in fact, wetin make our president Buhari talk say he is so sorry that whenever I've wronged you, I am sorry. Femi Adesina don't come defend Buhari o. Make una watch this video. Make una hear wetin talk about the reason why President Buhari talk say he is sorry, and also to talk about the governments where the things where he don't do during governor, during ruling as Buhari, say make him come talk, and since na him be special advisor to presidency on media and publicity, make him come talk in mind. How him take see am? Watch this video.
In a country of 200 million people, I think you have had more than your fair share. Because if you are going to share the time among 200 million people, if you have taken 8 years, you have taken a lion's share. Not everybody will have that privilege. So if you have had that privilege, just be thankful and then move to the next.
Was there a chance that 200 million people can never sit in that office?
You know there's no chance. There's no chance.
Let's get into this. So let's start with that statement of, if I have hurt you in any way, forgive me. Why would the president be saying that?
Every reflective person should be able to say that. If you permit me to go into scriptures, Samuel was a leader for Israel. There was a time Israel clamored for a king, and God said, give them a king. So when he anointed Saul to be a king over Israel, he spoke to them. He said, judge me. Is there anybody whose ass I have taken, or anybody whose horse I have stolen? Have I taken a bribe from anyone? And all that. So it's like a self-accounting. When you are exiting from a position of public trust, you need to be humble enough and down to earth enough to know that you would not have done everything perfectly. So there will always be an opportunity to say, if I wronged you, forgive me. It may not be that he actually wronged, but he should be factual enough to say, if I wronged anyone, please forgive.
Indeed, there are some who feel that the president has wronged them. I mean, based on some of the promises he made in his manifesto when he was coming to office, one of those being peace and security, return of the Chibok girls, an end of insurgency. How should the people feel seeing that some of these promises were not met as much as the people anticipated? Mark the word I use, were not met as much as the people anticipated.
That will also not quite be factual, because in 2015 we knew where Nigeria was. Today we know where we are. Can you compare where we are today to 2015? You mentioned 3 things. One, okay, let me take the Chibok girls first. How many of them were spirited away? 267, I think. About 57 escaped immediately, and over 100, maybe 115, 120, have been returned by the administration. The ones that are left, I think 90-something, they are Nigerians. They have a right to be brought back. But then, if a government came in, when the trail was already cold, and you couldn't trace where the girls were taken, you can't then blame it solely for not bringing them back. That would not be quite right. Dapchi girls were taken under the administration. Within the week, they were recovered, except maybe 5, including Lesharebu, sadly. So, I believe that with the Chibok girls, we should rather appreciate God and appreciate government for what was achieved. It's not as if government folded its hands and didn't do anything. It did its level best. And because government is a continuum, the incoming government, if it recovers more of those girls, yes, the country will gladly receive them. That is one, Chibok girls. You also mentioned insurgency. Oh, would you say where we are today in the area of insurgency was where we were in 2015? No. Even there's an international report, if you permit me to share, which gives the death toll from terrorist attacks between 2011 and 2022. One single soul lost is bad enough. It should not happen. But what does the report say? In 2011, Nigeria lost 447 souls to insurgency, to terrorism. In 2012, it spiked to 1,506. In 2013, it went to 2,015. In 2014, mark the figure, 7,775, the highest in 2014. In 2015, it dropped to 5,567. 2016, 2,147, 2017, 1,809, 2018, 2,577, 2019, 1,718, 2020, 2,102, 2021, 497, and 2022, 385. Compare that to 7,775 in 2014. Can anybody now say we are where we were as at the time this government came? That person will not be fair.
You know, Mr. Additional, I will be shocked. Not just I, a lot of people and our viewers will be shocked if you came here and said in any way that the administration has failed.
Okay.
But of course, you're putting it out there that you've done something. We're not where we were,
yes,
but we're not where we should be.
Good. Now the question is, how many countries of the world are where they want to be? Not many. Not many. Look at what inflation is doing around the world now. Next door, neighbor Ghana. The last I saw, the inflation rate was 58%. Nigeria hit just about 22%. Well, I wouldn't say about, because that is bad enough. But Ghana is at 58. Other countries are higher. The United Kingdom has not had the level of inflation it has had in the past 40 years. It's all over the world. So no country of the world is where it wants to be.
You know, let me read. I want to read this, a portion of the manifesto that your principal came into office with. Urgently address capacity building of law enforcement agents in terms of quantity and quality, as this is critical in safeguarding the sanctity of lives and property. Establish a well-trained, adequately equipped and goals-driven serious crime squad to combat terrorism, kidnapping, armed robbery, militancy, ethno-religious and communal clashes nationwide. This is part of the manifesto that your principal came into office with. And in all of this, you say we're not where we were. But this is what you promised. Would you say this has been addressed?
You in that area, let me tell you the latest facts. When this administration came, Nigerian armed forces were rated 7th in Africa. 7th in terms of combat readiness, equipment, and all that. Do you know what figure we are now? 4th in Africa. 4th. Because the president has spent a lot in equipping the military, training them, boosting their morale. Our Air Force was virtually wingless as of 2015. They had 4 or 5 serviceable aircraft. Do you know how many scores of aircraft we have today, including Super Tucano and all the sophisticated ones in the world? So, in terms of arming our military, the administration has done so well. And if it didn't do that, by now, Nigeria will have been overrun by so many challenges: terrorism, insurgency, banditry, and all that. Nigeria will have been overrun. The new government will not have to equip the military the same way again, because it has been done.
Let me interrupt you here. You know, when this administration came in, we had insurgency in the northeast. But between that time and now, we've had insecurity spread across the Middle Belt and towards the south. We have some communities that have been sacked in the Middle Belt, in Nasarawa, in Benue. And you say that this administration has done well in terms of security.
Yes, it has done well, because it could have been worse.
Oh, it could have been worse.
Yes, it definitely would have been worse. Look at this scenario. As at 2015, how many times did bombs go off in Abuja? Daily. Daily. Could you go to church without being frisked or sacked? Could you go to recreation places without bomb detectors being used on you? In fact, the recreation places were empty. And that was like all over the country. You saw the last Salah just about a week ago. You saw Doba, you saw horse riding, you saw gaiety, all over, including in Bono. Was that possible as at 2015? It was not. So there is a lot of improvement, marked improvement. I'm not saying further challenges didn't come up. They came up. As at 2015, the major challenge facing the country was insurgency. Banditry was strange. But later, the challenges became variegated, and banditry was one of the things that came in. Among the same people, the Northwest people, they have a common language, they have a common culture, they have a common trade, they are like cattle rearers. They began to steal one another's cattle, they began to kill one another, all sorts of things. So it was another challenge. And of course, you know that kidnapping for ransom also joined it. You know that cult killings joined it. You know that other ethnic clashes came up. You had people who began to agitate for all sorts of referendum and all sorts of independent breakaway from the federation. So when challenges multiply in a country, it is the duty of government to also rise up to those challenges. So, and I think by and large...
So has did government rise up to come in? Because yes, we focus so much on security, with the areas, education, job creation that you talked about, the improvement of the economy, but it looks as if it even got worse under this administration.
Let's talk about that. The economy that the Buhari administration made was one solely dependent on import. We import everything: toothpicks, wine, beans from Burkina Faso, rice from Thailand, everywhere. We were spending millions of dollars on importation that we couldn't afford. Money that could have been deployed towards more productive areas of the economy. Today, what do we import? Particularly in terms of rice, in terms of maize, in terms of beans, almost all grains are produced locally. All those wastage on toothpicks and wine and all that. There was this list, was it 31 items that Central Bank released then that wouldn't be available for
option. And that is something, the reality that many people from the OPS would confirm. It's something that I'm sure you're aware of as well. Is there a plan that the Buhari government is bequeathing that in the next X number of years, these are the things we have to continue to do in the fight against corruption? Because I don't remember any such strong, successive statement that the government of the day has made.
Thank you. One thing we need to realize is that government is not ubiquitous. Governments cannot be with us in our homes, in our churches, in our mosques, in our offices. It is we, as a people, that must define our own values, virtues, and our own ethos in our individual space. If we refuse to do it, we can turn around. We can turn around and blame government for not doing it.
Well,
that is one point. The other one is, yes, is the government bequeathing? Yes?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. Is the government bequeathing something enduring in the area of anti-corruption? Yes, I'll say yes. Each government defines its own vision. But I doubt if there will be any government that will not consider corruption a serious issue. Listen to all the campaigns. Every major candidate then said he will fight corruption if he got into office. So I doubt if any government will come and it will leave corruption are the backboners. Any government that does not tackle corruption headfront is only expediting the ruins of this country, because corruption is an issue in Nigeria. The Buhari administration fought corruption. The results are there.
Well,
check the figures.
I'm looking for the figures, Mr.
And
my apologies, Mr. Adifino. My sincere apologies. I'm asking for a reference point in the past 8 years, expiring May 29. I'm asking for a reference point. It is in this government that a number of people would remember animals carting away cash. It is in this government that we understand that the Accountant General of the Federation was queried for more than R1 billion or so. And it is in this same government, from before this government, that the Auditor General's report has never had the teeth to bite and ensure that whatever is lost or unaccounted for is returned. The 2017 Auditor General's report is a reference. 2-point-something trillion naira remains unaccounted for, according to the analysis done by SERAP from the report from the Auditor General's office, which is a government, with a part of government. So, again, what strong statement would you say this government made in terms of fighting corruption? Whom did this government deal with in spite of fighting corruption in a way that people would say, indeed, the Buhari government made a statement that should deter anyone, even though, as you said, corruption could still continue?
Yes, that was the point I was exactly when you interjected. Between 2010 and like 2017, look at the figures of conviction for corruption. Compare it to 2021 and 2022 alone. Those 2 years far outstrip and outweigh conviction in 7 years. That answers your question. This administration has seen corruption as an issue, is tackling it, will tackle it to the last day, and it is left for the new administration to continue. If somebody is accused of something, of misappropriating money in billions, and he has been interdicted and is facing trial, how come it is now the fault of the government? But if that person was alleged to have misappropriated that money and the government looked the other way, that is when you can accuse the government of not fighting corruption. Give me one person, not apocryphal stories like snake ate 38 million, crocodile ate 20 million, 2 trillion is unaccounted for. Those are things that cannot be substantiated. But give me any substantiated case or story, and the government has turned the other eye. It has not happened.
Well, Ms. Additional, it's a matter of continuous debate, because we recall under the same administration, 2 former governors were pardoned, and in other cases by the judiciary, Nigerians beneath the rung of the ladder who stole less, were giving stiffer sentences. So that debate continues. But since it's a day of reflection, let's look at one of the major promises of the Buhari government when it came to power in 2014. In 2014, Nigeria's economy grew by about 6%. Crude oil production was 2.15 barrels per day. The naira to the dollar at the time was 150 naira. So let's move down to 2023 now and look at the same economic indices. Economic growth is, somewhere around 2%, and even the projection by the World Bank is that economic growth will grow by 3% in 2023. So upon reflection now, can you say that the Buhari government has delivered when you consider where Nigeria was in 2014?
Yes, as at 2014, one thing you didn't consider was that oil sold at over $100 per barrel. It went to $143 per barrel at a time. That's at 2014. But at 2015, when the Buhari administration came, there was also a global crisis, and oil prices went as low as $37 per barrel. It even dropped to below 30 at a point. And that was at a time when oil was the mainstay of our economy. We went into the first recession. Happily, after a year, we came out of it. In 2020, we went into another recession because of the system that this economy must be diversified. And we have a diversified economy today. So when you come with those figures, particularly the exchange rate on naira to the dollar, you ask yourself, what are we exporting? If you don't export, your naira will be consistently weak against the dollar. But we are heading to a point when we can begin to export, particularly agri-products. We have started marginally. It can improve. Until you export, your currency will be weak against international currencies. That's one thing we must realize.
But Mr. Davidgoldd, the administration campaigned on the strength of its ability to solve problems. And you cited global economic challenges. Other countries of the world have taken advantage of those challenges, i.e. the Russia-Ukraine war, to increase the fortunes of its economy, i.e. Saudi Arabia, just to mention one that has, thrived amid the global challenges. But Nigeria has been unable to do pretty much the same. The story here is, crude oil theft that has not been significantly dealt with.
When Nigeria sold oil at $143 per barrel, and that administration exited, how much did we have in our foreign reserves? Less than 50 billion. In fact, I think less than 40 billion, 39 point something billion. I hope I'm correct. But it's either less than 40 billion or less than 50 billion. Saudi Arabia that you mentioned had hundreds of billions of dollars in its foreign reserve. That's the same country. That's a similar country where their export is oil. Nigeria's export was oil. They conserved their own money and they built a healthy reserve. Nigeria didn't build a reserve. Foreign reserve was down. Federation account was down. Excess crude account was down. In fact, everything was, to use the president's words, vandalized before 2015. So you can't eat your cake and also have it.
Mr. Adesina, in answering the questions of my colleagues, you've had to do a bit of comparison going back and forth. Yes. Or what did we meet in 2014? Yes. But you see, when you work in an office, and thank God you, as you said, you left the private sector as a management staff, and you know that some people are fired for incompetence. Now, the last administration attempted to return, but they did not, because Nigerians, the electorate, felt they didn't do too well, and they brought in President Muhammadu Buhari. But you consistently gone back and forth. What were we then? What are we now? But people are fired and new staff are employed in order to move the company from where it was to where it's supposed to be, not to be in the same doldrums and you're having the same conversation. See where we were before, see where we are now. No. The change is so that improvement can be seen. Now, for instance, we're talking security. Let's go back a bit. But before that, I'll read out some things here so that I can respond to all of them. Brazen attacks on train stations, airport, even on the president's convoy. That is there. Now, you might want to argue about that. Your administration promised 15% from the budget for education. That has not happened. You're almost out. You promised to improve in the health sector from 19 per 1,000 physicians to 50 per 1,000. That's in the manifesto upon which you came into power. But all of this haven't happened.
Well, without really holding brief for the party, because the party can hold brief for itself. The party is the custodian of the manifesto. What happened in 2015?
But the president is the arrowhead of that party.
Yes, to implement it, but I'm building up.
Okay.
What happened in 2015 was that there were a rash of documents passing off as the party's manifesto. You didn't know which was really from the party, which was from a support group. For instance, there was a document, 100 things Buhari would do in 100 days. You know that it was when I resumed as his media advisor that I asked him about that document. He said, is there a document like that? I said, yes, there is. He said, get it for me. I got it for him. When he saw it, he was shocked because they said in 100 days he would declare his assets publicly. In 100 days he would do this, he would do this, he would do things he didn't know about.
But what I've just, well, the facts I've pointed out here now,
yes.
Are they part of the manifesto?
Well, I do not know. I'm not strictly a party person. But I know that each party will have promises before it gets into power, and whoever is elected into power must key in to those promises. But what I'm telling you is that as at 2015, there were a rush of documents which even the party didn't know. So, because there were many support groups which
let's
came
clarify.
With their own documents.
It would be good that, yes, you're saying you're not holding brief for the party.
Yes.
But did you know about the promise to make from the budget 15% for education?
Well, naturally there will be such promises. And you see, a budget is a statement of intent. And that intent is governed or determined by resources. If you intend to spend *1 trillion naira and resources come to 500 billion, what do you do?
Did you make a promise to do 19 per 1,000 in terms of physicians to 50
I
per
do not
1,000?
know. Whoever heads that sector will be
but you were doing comparisons between that administration and this administration.
No. The past is a key to unlocking the future. Okay. So you cannot say it's just a comparison for the sake of comparison. The key to opening the future is the past.
Which is good.
Yes.
But in looking at the past to open the future, you made certain promises. This is what my predecessors did, or this is what this government did. This is what I am going to do. Okay. And now you're saying there was a rush of documents. So in the many documents that there were these promises outlined in the document
Okay, let me address it this way. There are always promises based on certain realities. But when the realities change, it must necessarily affect the promise. Even in our private lives. You maybe are putting up a building and you have said, by the end of the first quarter, I'll finish it by the grace of God. And then something happens to your finances and you couldn't do it. So, is anybody going to now hold you to ransom for it? Because the expectations changed. So a country can only spend the money it has. It can't spend the money it doesn't have. When realities of the economy change, then you have to adjust and do what you are able to do according to the realities of the economy.
Mr. Adesina, this conversation, I'm sure we will come back to this conversation, but because one of the things that in that promise, among the promises, was to modernize agriculture so that Nigerian farmers are not just self-subsistent farmers, but you talked about the fact that agriculture is one of the things that has really improved.
Let me answer that. Are we where we were in agriculture? Agriculture is one of the greatest strengths of this administration. It is. And that is why today we are near food self-sufficiency. The things we used to import, we don't import. Beans from Burkina Faso, do we still import? No.
But we're not exporting. Instead, we're exporting our people.
No, but
Japa syndrome started in this administration. We're exporting our people.
It has always been there. It has always been there. Japa syndrome had always been there. And there is nothing, like I said before, there is nothing wrong.
We've exported more people now than
there's nothing wrong with going abroad. Yes, if you think you have better opportunities abroad, by all means go. By all means. But it's not a crime.
Wouldn't it have been good to build to create an environment where your citizens can stay and invest here, invest their talent, invest their money?
It's an idea.
Wouldn't that have been a good thing?
It's an idea.
Isn't that part of the reasons why a new administration will want to come in and create an environment where its citizens can dwell and do well?
It's an ideal, but we know that the ideal is not always the reality at all times, and you must face reality. You must. I tell young people, if you have an opportunity to go abroad and you are not going to be a caregiver there or doing many things that you can't do in your country, please go. If you think you have opportunity. one day you will come back a better person and invest in this country and this economy again.
Mr. Adesina, I want to thank you so much for coming on to the show this morning. Mr. Femi Adesina is a special advisor to the president on media and publicity. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
Say you don't hear them. So, me, I don't want to talk too much. Before, because some people don't, they give me back to back for my DMC. You this Baba, your own don't too much. Your own don't too much. You do the talk about Nigerian government. I say, yes, so now my country, now my fatherland. So I suppose talk waiting my eyes see. So that this country go better. As I always the talk say, do well. Make you see well. When you live a right life, you see right result. I don't talk about no, and I don't close my mouth. Bye.
Ìgbó ló bẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ́wọ́, ọmọ ní ìfowóṣe ni, ọmọ ní ìfowóṣe ni, wọ́n á sanwó mi.